Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, welcome back, traders. How are we doing? All the NIO family investors, how are we doing on this Freaky Friday? We're going to be covering NIO stock as well as IWM. As you saw, a pretty bloodbath kind of day on the stock market. But before we jump into it, guys, we are very, very close to 1,800 subscribers. So if you guys are not subscribed yet, you're watching the video, make sure to hit as hard as you can the subscribe button, because nobody's doing it like we're doing it on NIO stock. Just they are not, right? Covering this in depth of technical analysis, TA, on this stock, and as regularly as we do it. So without anything else, we're going to jump straight into the technical analysis. And I want to take a different time frame on the 4-hour chart. You could take this two different ways, and I'm going to let you guys leave the interpretation to you guys, right? Do your own due diligence, because we are not financial advisors, but you do have this very clear and obvious shoulder, head, right shoulder. And that's something that we've talked about for a while here on this channel. But now you've made it very clear because of this rejection that you saw, like we kind of talked about, right? We said, be careful, be careful once you come up to this 620 level on the charts here, and you rejected it. Beyond that, not only did you reject that level, but you're also seeing a spillover with the rest of the market. Now, this is expected because rising tides sinks all ships, yada, 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 as everyone says. But you're trading within this pretty clear and evident local falling broadening wedge. Now, if you guys are new to that channel or that perspective, right, that is a pattern in which you see lower highs and lower lows. Typically, you'll see one last shakeout before you see this kind of lower high, or you could even go all the way down to the last lower low and then see this thing rip like crazy. A pretty good example of that, I would say, let's just check out one that we've called on this channel a while ago. This is a long, long time ago, guys. So stay with me here because this is all perspective. This was SoFi. You saw a falling broadening wedge. You came all the way down to the last part of the wedge, and then you freaking ripped like crazy. Well, NIO stock is doing very similar things right now within this falling broadening wedge. And really, what you did this week is pretty important, because if you fall beneath this line, specifically this low right here, let's see what that low is. If you fall beneath 530 is your exact mark. That's going to spell inevitably, right, more downside. So it could land in 3 different locations. And these are the technical targets that we're speaking about, right? And we'll outline those for you guys. First one is 498. And why do I say 498 to everyone in the chat, right? Why do I say that? This gap fill right here. And I want you guys to take a different perspective on the way that you think about this stock, right? Think about $7 was the bull trap. That is where they're actively trying to get liquidity, trapped at these levels, and then sell off up here or down here, right? And they're trying to exhaust retail throughout this very clear distributive pattern. 498 is the opportunity of a lifetime for the stock. If you come all the way down here, which is not even given, right? There's a very real chance with the kind of numbers you've been putting up on NIO that you just V-line out of here, and that is your high or low, and then you're done, right? You're out of here. The technical profit target would be upwards of, let's say you V-line out of here like that. That would be 753, still very positive, right? But there's a very real scenario in which you come all the way down to this present or this gift box, right? And I put that icon there because it is literally shorts, manipulators, whatever you want to call it, giving you a gift, right? NIO stock below 498 is an absolute blessing because if you see that low on the falling broadening wedge, well, that extends then your breakout target on the technical pattern, right? The more you kind of reverse coil this thing, the larger of a move you should expect to see. And I think this makes a lot of sense because falling down here, right, you fill your technical gap at 498. That is bullish. And then also you would have a slingshot straight into 771, which we've talked about for a long, long time on this channel, being the most important horizontal resistance on the stock's history. You rejected it here in September of 2024, and then you failed to close a week above it, which is important context. Failed to close a week above it back here. So now you're rejecting $7, right? Everyone's bearish. This is often where I get bullish. And just being honest, there is still the gap sitting at 713, I believe. 713 is your gap left. So even if you see a swing high here and you find some kind of bottoming formation, whether it be this present, this gift given to you by short sellers, or it be your very important trend line that you've had intact since this double bottom here, this Adam and Eve double bottom. And just to give you guys a little tidbit again, Adam and Eve double bottom pattern, this is what led you to your initial run last summer. That Adam and Eve double bottom pattern is exactly what you see here, right? Exactly what you see. So from that, traders, we've seen the technical breakout, and you had a very, very beautiful Adam and Eve. You saw your breakout, your retest, and then bam, right? That led you near your profit target on that next swing high. We're now talking about something else, right? We're talking about the falling broadening wedge. NIO stock respects these kind of breakouts very, very well. So some things we're watching for on this slide down, we want to see this level hold right around 530. So that'll be our other text, right? 530 is going to be crucial on this stock. Break below 530, you're likely to come down to this trend line, tap it, and reverse. Break beneath that trend line, traders, and it's very likely that you get the gift of all gifts. And that is the other last and final gap fill, currently sitting at 459. Guys, 459 would be the absolute gift of all gifts on this thing, and me, myself, personally would take advantage of that opportunity. But do your own due diligence, right? Don't listen to me. I'm just a painter, right? I love to chart the stocks. Some things we're watching, though, on the daily time frame to see if this actually does occur is the volume profile. As you can see, the volume profile is pretty exhausted. You've seen throughout this entire stretch down, volume going down. Wow, big shocker, right? So that is actually a very bullish thing, considering you've left two gaps in the meantime to the upside, right? So if you make this swing down, you could do the most bullish thing, in my opinion, which is kind of a V line here, fill the gap, and then you go crazy. You go to 10D town, right, on NIO stock. That is the most bullish opportunity on NIO. Fill the gap, and then fill these two. On the news, it's just talking about NIO stock vehicle margins, and they're in a good spot. They're profitable. I'm not worried about it. You did just cross down on the daily RSI band, which is expected because the broader market took a big poo-poo. On the weekly time frame, you're seeing a little bit of chop and a rejection off the 50 line. Now, this weekly candle is one of the uglier candles that you've printed on NIO stock in a very long time. So that is what's leading me to believe that you're not going to hold 530, and that's okay, right? Not holding 530 is not the end of the world. It's just a preferred outcome, right? If you want to keep this momentum swing higher, you're going to keep 530. If not, you're going to see this a little bit more meticulous, but very opportunistic scenario. And if, let's say, worst case scenario, right, you come down to 459, there is, in fact, a last trend line that should hold you up and offer a freaking phenomenal opportunity here, as this was your bottom back in 2019 before your run, and this is your bottom back in summer of 25, right? I don't think that this scenario is going to happen, but if it did, that would allow you to potentially get into the stock near these lower prices of 380 and would create almost a quadruple bottom here. As you see bottom, and you see how the stock reacts once you get to this freaking level, right? This thing goes insane. The inverted head and shoulders would not be invalidated, just a little bit extended here if you came down to this level, but it would for sure be painful, right? Nobody wants that to happen, but just look at the gains that do once you have that, right? Insane. 21 days, 65%. This is a 56-day, 110% swing. So if you do, that's going to be monumental opportunity there, but we are holding our bias, our bullish bias, that you are not going to go down there and that you will just fill these regular gaps and then go higher. Once you test 771, it is very likely, in my opinion, that you either come back down to 7 to retest the previous resistance, or, right, you just freaking smash and it's time to go, right? If it is truly time to go on NIO stock, you will see volume pick up. You will see news drop probably, and then you will see people FOMO into this thing like you haven't seen in a very long time. I expect a slingshot directly to 952, as that is your next horizontal resistance, right? And this thing should act as just as fast as you went down here. That's just as fast as I expect you to go up as soon as you pass this horizontal resistance. So bull case aside, right? We're very, very bullish on NIO stock in the macro time frame. Let's talk about a monthly time frame scenario that is also equally as bullish, and that is the monthly RSI, guys. Look at the monthly RSI. Look at what you are doing currently and what it means to the stock. You're in this inverted shoulder, head, right shoulder with your technical gaps, right? But just looking at where you are in this breakout above the RSI band, you saw that pretty much mark your bottom down here, and then you rally in these 3 months of green, right? You saw a retest back here and a higher low on the stock. You saw a pretty nice bounce and 3 months of continuation again. So the last 2 times you've gotten above this RSI band on the monthly time frame, right? We're talking the macro. You saw another bounce off of that. You're now testing it one more time. If this is in fact your higher low here, it's very likely that you would find a bounce off of this 530 area and make the finale, right? This would be your final higher low before you freaking rip ass. And that's what we're hoping for, right? That's the best case scenario for NIO stock, because if you lose this monthly RSI band, it might get a little ugly. But things that we're hoping for, things that have been hopeful so far, is the volume trend in general has seen sellers leave the chat. Sellers have been losing strength and buyers have been stepping in. Last month, you saw a pretty lopsided month, right? More volume than the previous, but still on the retrospective things, right? You can see how much the buyers overpower the sellers here. We're hoping and praying that June can print a low volume red month. And that is your best case scenario, in my opinion. If you can see consolidation here, potentially a high wick, maybe doji, this thing is going to go parabolic, right? That's going to give you the opportunity to then find a bounce off of this monthly RSI band and cross above the 50 traders. And that would be the first time you have made a bullish cross above the 50 since back here. And that candle on the monthly was 93%. So if you guys have made it this far, please slap the subscribe button, hit the like button, and let's continue to talk about it, because this is a very, very big deal on NIO. Not a lot of people are talking about the monthly RSI 50 line being tested and the RSI band being tested. It's going to tell you what the macro on this stock is going to do, and all we can do is continue to cover these shorter time frames, right? Because you are so close to doing something huge that the shorter time frames are going to paint that picture. Anything else on the daily on TradingView? I don't think so. On Webull, we'll talk about Webull a little bit. You saw a close below the 50 line, or the 50 EMA on Webull on the weekly time frame. Also a close with the MACD on the weekly time frame going down, which typically adds to more selling pressure. So we'll have to see how that comes on Monday morning. A lot of people are doomers right now, and you're hearing a lot of people talk about a stock market crash. I'm sure if we pull up the fear and greed index, it is already in fear. Of course, of course it is. You can see the VIX going absolutely bonkers out of this freaking mind. And the stock market already in fear, traders. The stock market has literally just yesterday been at an all-time high. So the fact that you're in fear is hilarious. Crypto, as we know, is an extreme fear. And this is often the best opportunity to buy the dip. Now, I'm not going to tell you, like I said, what to do, but you could look at Bitcoin, right? Just look at it. We're going to look at IWM in a second here, but we'll continue to cover NIO on Webull. So on Webull, we talked about this uptrend being very intact and acting as new resistance. And unfortunately, that's what you found on your last rally northwards. You saw everyone hyped, retesting the old support, new resistance, dump, right? And so this is where you are. You're in this very interesting double bottom formation, and you have the volume exhaustion being broken on the shorter time frames by the bears. You need to see either a wick, right, a flush down to fill this gap at 498, or you need to see this spot hold. If not, traders, it's likely that you get that full extension down to this end of the falling broadening wedge. In my opinion, not financial advice, all scenarios are bullish on NIO right now, but it's just whether or not you see short-term gains or short-term downside. You do have the 9-day EMA flipping down here and potentially crossing below the 200. We know all too well that this will lead to a bearish cross, just like you had back here when we talked about it. You saw a 3% and then a 4% or nearly 5% downside rejection. So that's what you want to avoid here. You want to see this thing V-line out and potentially fill these two gaps above you. That is your short-term good time frame bet. On the quarterly time frame, I know we're jumping around a little bit, but we've talked about a couple different theories that we have, and the biggest thing to talk about here is the volume exhaustion on such a big stage, right? I mean, just look at the quarterly time frame printing 1, 2, 3 quarters in a row of less volume than the previous. I expect this trend to break, preferably this quarter, when you see the breakout of this inverted head and shoulders. With it, you should expect the quarterly MACD to cross up to the green for the first time since 2020, guys. And that led to your crazy run up. And we're not saying that history is going to repeat itself, because it often does not, but it will probably rhyme. And if it does, right, that is a serious opportunity to see a very high NIO stock. How high? You could see 100 if this thing finds some kind of deal or begin selling in the US, right? No one knows, truthfully. But first, you would have to break above 771. And that's what we are absolutely locked in and focused on for this channel. Nothing comes until you break above 771 and close above it on the weekly time frame. Let's jump into IWM, though, because this also affects NIO stock. This is your meme basket or your small cap basket that will kind of direct a lot of the traffic in these smaller cap stocks. And what you've seen today was a pretty fat dump, right? You saw IWM down 3%, as well as most of the broader market. Now, we were trading within this flag formation with a very bullish bias, and you saw that fake out breakout and then the rug pull. And that rug pull is taking you all the way down to this uptrend. If you fail to hold this uptrend come Monday morning, expect it to see a little pullback, and that's okay, right? Go to the weekly time frames. You have a lot of support in a lot of different areas. It would be a little bit of a slide, though, just being honest. You would probably come back to retest your previous all-time high, currently sitting at 270 on IWM, and that would be your most bullish case to see a bounce, as you've already seen a bounce there twice and printed weekly hammer candles, guys. So I expect that to occur if this thing loses that trend line, fall beneath that, and that's where it becomes a little bit more sticky, right? Because you have multiple daily gaps below you. One currently sitting at 265, the other one sitting at 253. You have the 200-day EMA sloping up at 255. That could act as nice support, just like it did back here, and resistance here, right? So the 200-day EMA is going to be crucial if you actually get to that point. I'm in the belief that you won't, and that people are kind of overreacting here. But who am I, right? I'm just a trader who likes to chart lines. But this will affect NIO stock, right? If this does take a slide down, unless you outperform the market, right? Which is possible, just not likely. But I think that's all I got for the day, guys. So God bless you and your families. And remember, traders, the best is yet to come. Slap the subscribe button and make sure to get outside and touch grass. Love you all, and peace.